Welcome to the Rising for Women podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Merlo-Booth, and I believe the world will be changed for women when we change how we walk in it. So each week, we're going to have hard conversations. We're going to explore new options. Some of them are going to be hard options, and we're going to have some real, straight talk. We're going to do that because I have faith that women can handle it. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Rising for Women podcast with your hosts, Lisa Merlo-Booth, Dee Marcotte, and Arlene Newman. We're happy to have you guys joining us today. And our topic today, we're going to delve into just a small little topic. Love.
Well, it's Valentine's Day coming, right? So
that's right. Valentine's Day is coming up. So let's talk about love. And in particular, you know, Dee, Arlene, and I work with couples and individuals and have for decades now. Gosh, hate to say that, but we have for decades. And
it's a good thing, Lisa.
It's a good thing.
We have a lot of experience.
Yes, we have a lot of experience. And we see time and time again over the years, three key myths that kind of pop up in our practice when it comes to love. And so let's kind of delve into some of those myths. And one of them is that romantic love should be unconditional. Like my partner should love me no matter what. Mm-hmm. And, you know, right? Shouldn't he? I'm wonderful. I'm amazing. Shouldn't he love me no matter what?
My partner should do that, but
what's wrong with thinking that, you know? So let's dig into that. Why, like, what's wrong with unconditional love between adults?
Well, the problem is there is no such thing. I mean, I think that's what makes it a myth, is that, you know, it's a great concept. And when we were babies, we should have gotten that.
Yeah.
But as adults, it's kind of, we all need a bottom line somewhere that says, no, that's not okay. And so that means there's conditions. Yeah.
Yeah, what I tell my couples all the time is the only appropriate place for unconditional love is between a parent and a child. Mm-hmm. And if you have pets, that's okay.
I was going to say, and my dog.
That's why we have pets.
Right. But there's no such thing as healthy unconditional love between adults, because that means that the idea that I should love you no matter how you treat me, no matter what you do, no matter how much damage you cause, is such an unhealthy, dangerous concept. And not just for me, right? Not just on my side of the equation or your side of the equation, but on your partner's side of the equation as well. You know, it's not okay for you to do anything you want, and your partner should just always be there. You can cheat on him or her 20 times and they should just keep coming back. Or you can, you know, be a rager and scaring the hell out of them every single day, and they should just be coming. You should just be like, okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty crazy. That's a pretty crazy thought.
Right. It is when you say it like that, right? Like when you start, it's like, what? Where did we even like begin to think this?
Well, I think, okay, so that brings me to what I was just thinking about, is that what it brings us to is the fact that when we didn't get that unconditional love as babies, we want it. We want it, and it leaves a big hole. So then we spend a lot of our time and energy trying to make that happen.
Yeah.
And when it doesn't happen, we feel cheated and we feel angry, and we don't really have a sense of what is kind of a healthy expectation out of a loving relationship. So that colors it. So I think we have to really kind of acknowledge that to begin with, that there is a pain in not having had that. And that pain does show itself in our relationship after the first passion of love, where we think we're going to get it all. And then that wears down. And then we have to face that we still have that hole.
Yeah. It kind of that hole or that wounding of not having that, especially if you didn't have it as a child, you grow up hungry for it.
Yes, you do.
You grow up
And
hungry.
it hurts. And the almost the compulsion to try and get that fixed is very intense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and the idea that you have to give it to me,
Of course.
kind of like as a baby,
Yes.
you should have given it to me. But
Exactly.
now, like, oh, it doesn't come from out there anymore. Mm-hmm.
No.
I think that's one of the hardest things for people to really, really get.
Mm-hmm.
That it can't come from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about, okay, unconditional love is absolutely not healthy between adults. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And what should we expect from, from our partners? Like, we are imperfect. And so how should that love be? And what should be normal between, partners? What, how do we support each other, but not, unconditionally, accept everything that they do? Like, let's kind of flesh that out for people so they get the feel for, the difference between unconditional love and healthy love.
In some ways, what came to mind as you were talking about that is Gottman's idea of you have to be able to be influenced by your partner.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an openness, there's a non-defensiveness, there's the ability to reflect on the fact that even if my friend thinks that's okay, the person I'm in love with doesn't. And because I want to be a partner with you, I'm going to monitor that behavior or whatever it is that I do.
Yeah.
But I got to be able to be coached by my partner.
Right. I have to be open to them and be interested in their feedback.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One of the things that you just said led me to thinking about accountability.
Mm-hmm.
So unconditional love basically means no accountability. And healthy love is you both are accountable to
That's
each
right.
other. You're accountable to how you treat each other. You're accountable to, whether you are open and influenceable or not. And ideally, look, really, ideally, none of us want to be the same person we were when we were 20 and just, in a relationship, or 25 and just getting married, or 30 and getting married. Ideally, we are all steadily growing, and you should be growing, and your partner should be growing. And in a great world, you're growing together. But even if you're not growing together, you're honoring each other's growth. And it's not like I am who I am and this is who I was when we were married, take me or leave me. It's really, here's how you impact me. And I hope that you're hearing this and you're learning from it, and you're going to adjust accordingly because you love me, because you care. And I'm going to do the same for you because I'm watching some of your behaviors and they're not working for me or for our children or for you even.
And I think, as you were talking, one of the pieces of a Billy Joel song came through my mind, which was "Don't Go Changing."
Right.
That's funny.
Stay the same as you were when you were 19.
Right. But even if you think about like I was watching all those stupid, Christmas movies, before Christmas, and they're all about, oh, I think you're going to give me what I want in this unconditional love. It looks like it's not working. But then, magic dust falls and, oh, we're, now you're going to give me everything I want. And the idea is we lived happily ever after.
Yeah.
And so it gives that sense in songs and movies. And so I think there's a place of being conscious about what you're ingesting in those ways. That also adds to this idea of, no, it's going to stay the same and it's going to be unconditional, and I can be however I want to be.
Yeah.
Do we even have any models for like what a healthy relationship looks like as it changes and evolves? Well, we have some where it leads to divorce, and those are pretty common. But are there? Can you think of any stories or movies or anything where you actually see an evolution of a relationship, something that grows into more mature kind of love? Do we have that?
I can't think of that. I think about there's a play that's called Into the Woods, and it's about, like, I think it's 3 of the fairy tales, and so it's like, where they were happily ever after and whatever. And then this is sort of the aftermath, where it's not quite so happily ever after, like, this part's great and this part's great, but I kind of miss this other thing. And but not that it then gives you here's the positive piece.
The movie with Robin Williams and
Good Will Hunting.
Yes.
Yes.
Good Will Hunting. What's interesting, the way Robin Williams speaks about his wife who passed away, he gives a very a great description of kind of a healthy love. And he talks about his wife often, and he talks about when they first met, and I knew it was like love at first sight, and then as they got older, just being together, and like just little things that he would talk about. I thought was a great description of of healthy love through the through that honeymoon phase where you're all like, and everything's wonderful, and
you're on drugs, as somebody said. Basically, you're high.
Right, you're high, and then after, well, not that I know what high is, but no, I'm just kidding.
Right. None of us would know what that is.
We have no idea.
And then and then after you kind of like that, initial high comes down, and you're like, oh, I don't know if I even like this person. And then it gradually is like, okay, I know all their warts and everything, and no, yeah, I still like them, not unconditionally. They have their they have their strengths and their weaknesses, and there are things that I love, and there are things that kind of annoy me, but overall, man, I love spending time with this person. Like when something happens, they're one of the first people I want to talk to. When I'm feeling really bummed, I want to go to them and be like, oh, this, I'm bummed right here. So it's a stronger love than unconditional. Unconditional love, you feel like you got to take everything. With healthy love, it's a mutual respect, and it's a mutual back and forth, give and take, and having each other's back in a different way, where you really want the best for that person. You're really striving for them, and yeah.
I think respect is a huge part of how you show loving.
Right.
Like no matter what, there's always respect, with very few exceptions.
So let's take that to our second myth, which is love means there's never any conflict. Right?
I can only laugh at that.
Yeah, really. Oh my God.
Another way to say that is, real love is always hot and passionate and fun, and you're always getting along. And that's an absolute myth. That's a super unhealthy Hollywood myth.
Well, and I think I might even want to say a little bit more about conflict. Is like there's a continuum of conflict. We're having a conflict if I want to go get Chinese food and you want Italian. We're having a conflict. We have to have a way to deal with that, as well as something like that's huge, like we're going to buy a house or not, or whatever that is. Right. But however we handle this little one is usually the same as we handle the big one.
That's right.
And so it's having good skills for that, rather than I'm not saying anything. I mean, I have had over the years, as I'm sure you guys have, like the women who come in, they've been married for 25 years, they say, I'm done.
Yeah.
You know, and it's
call
because
that
they didn't
this-
say
yeah.
anything for 24 and now they're over it.
I call that
Yeah.
the silent exodus.
Yes,
Mm.
right. That's great. Yeah.
Yep. They're
Mhm.
quiet, they're quiet, they're quiet, they're quiet. And then all of a sudden they're like, okay, I'm
Out
done.
of there.
I'm
Yeah.
done.
And their partners are like, what?
Yeah. Like I had no idea.
Yeah.
And they didn't, you know.
Right.
Or there's the, you know, like, oh, okay, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna say anything. Blah!
Yeah.
You
And you
know,
blow up.
like,
I see
like
that a
those
lot.
aren't, that's not respect. That's not conflict.
Right.
That's just unbridled self-expression. You know, it's just,
Right.
as Terry Real says, it's the idea of how do I handle things when they're here to here, and then I have good skills for that. And I always say, if you're not like fighting it all, someone's not telling the truth.
Right.
Someone's not saying what they really want or what they really need or what they, you know, there's no negotiation going on.
Right. And as you know, Arlene was saying, respect is bottom line in conflict. You can have conflict. There's nothing, and there's actually nothing you can't say respectfully. Even if it's even if it's tough, you can tell somebody that you're not in love with them anymore. You can ask for a divorce. You can, you know, you can do all of that with respect.
Mhm.
And the idea that, you know, if you had a healthy relationship, there'd be no conflict. That's just a crazy idea. That's an absolute myth. Equally dangerous of a myth, I think, is thinking, well, everybody yells and screams. Everybody, you know, no, everybody doesn't. And it's not okay for you when you're angry to just blow up, right? And I see men and women both blowing up and men and women both avoiding conflict and trying to not set the other person off.
Right, I would agree.
And what I would say, the ones who are walking on eggshells to not set the other person off, you're just creating a million more eggshells for you to walk on because you're training that person that their anger, you know, works. And for the person who is blowing up all the time and getting their own way, I would say you absolutely cannot blow up without the consequences of people getting more and more distant and more resentful towards you, whether they show it or not, you know?
Yeah, I hear so often people not be respectful, say a bunch of stuff, and then they're like, well, I was just mad. They should know I didn't mean that.
That's
And
right.
I'm like, no, no. You, like you said, you can say anything respectfully in conflict.
I think it's a real skill to know, especially when you're angry,
To
know how to be angry and respectful. I think that's a skill that many women do not have.
And I also think that that shows and speaks to love. Like, you know, when you slow down enough to be mindful of how you are treating those that you supposedly love, that is an act of love, right? And we have, you know, this crazy notion that love hurts. And so people are like, oh, you know, so what? Everybody calls each other names and everybody, that's just part. No, it's not. Love is not supposed to hurt, was never meant to hurt. And, you know, when you don't like what somebody's doing, you don't get to kind of shoot below the belt to hurt them purposefully. And some people do that, right? Some couples, like, they are not fighting fair at all. They want that other person to hurt because they hurt me. Now I want him or her to feel the hurt that I felt. And now you have two teenagers who are pretending to be in an adult relationship, and you're both killing that relationship. So conflict is healthy. You have to be able to talk through things, and you have to do it respectfully and with warm regard towards the other person, even in anger. That means you're taking 1,000 timeouts. Take 1,000 timeouts and come back. But you can't get through a healthy relationship without conflict. And in fact, I would even say that often conflict can lead to more intimacy, to greater intimacy, especially if you guys are being honest with each other.
Yeah, and you do it in a non-toxic way. You deal with it in a non-toxic way.
Right.
The other thing I'm thinking about that I think goes right into that is feeling disappointed and not blaming your partner for your disappointment. Not feeling entitled. Like if I feel disappointed with my partner, it doesn't mean I have the right to lash out my hurt and anger at them because I feel disappointed. They didn't do something that I thought they should do.
Right.
Could be as simple as I thought you were going to make a big deal out of my birthday and you didn't.
Yeah.
And I feel hurt and unloved, and therefore I feel entitled to give it to you.
Yeah.
It's part of like you should have known.
One of the things that's interesting when you talk about disappointment, what that brings up for me is another really important part of healthy romantic love and any love is that sometimes you're going to be disappointed. You're not going to get what you want. Sometimes the answer is going to be no, or it's not going to go your way, or, you know, your partner wants something different. And that's actually healthy. And so what you want to do is, you know, your ability to accept the no is going to be a big part in relationships, and your partner's ability to accept the no. Because if you or your partner can't say no without the other person putting out a stink, then your yes isn't a yes.
Right. I mean, I had that happen. It was years ago with my husband, but he didn't really want to go on this cross-country trip. And so we start off and he's complaining. And I'm like, what the heck, you know? And he said, well, I don't really want to go. And I'm like, how can I believe that you want to go if you're not going to tell me the truth when you don't want to go?
Right.
You know, kind of thing. And then you have actually the part about that was then whatever you're having the conflict about doesn't have anything to do with the thing.
Yeah, right.
You know, kind of like we could have decided what's going to happen around going cross-country skiing, but when you're just complaining and blah, 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 then it's kind of like now we're having a conflict sort of about nothing.
Yeah, right, right.
So I think that's important too, about that you have to tell the truth about what's going on.
And be direct.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I think what's interesting, like when you're in the honeymoon phase, you probably don't get a lot of no's. Right? It's like, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. Oh, sure. Oh, as long as I'm with you, that'd be great.
You're
right?
high, but you're high. You're on drugs.
Right.
You are on the love drug. You don't know what you want. You just want to be with each other, and you get carried. That carries you for a while.
Right.
I just had a couple last night where like exactly, he was like, well, like when we were first dating, she would watch all the football games with me. And then when we finally got married, she doesn't watch football anymore.
Right. and that's a really important thing. Like that's a part of a natural shift in relationships. At first, you guys are saying yes to everything because you're just so excited to be in each other's company and you're on drugs.
Right.
And so as it gets more real, then you guys can be more real, and you feel a little more secure to be able to actually say your honest needs and wants. And those healthy no's are super important, and they are necessary in any healthy relationship. So if you have one partner who's constantly yes, 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 and over accommodating and placating, and everything goes the other partner's way, that's setting up a really dangerous precedent and very tough. So you want to be able to say no, and you want to be able to accept the no's. That's a sign of a healthy relationship. As long as, again, they're both spoken respectfully and they're taken in a respectful way. Right? Too many people, I know some people like, fine, forget it. I'll never ask again. That's not respectful. That's not healthy. That's a childlike response. So that doesn't count.
Or I think of, especially like you were saying, the person who usually goes along, which is often the woman. Then, like X number of years later is kind of like, well, we never do anything I want. And I was like, well, you got it, like you set people up to treat you, a certain way. And so,
yeah, I want to go back to what you just said. It's often the woman. I would say it's often the woman, or it's the one who is the least reactive. If they're with a reactive partner,
True.
right? whoever the non-reactive partner is, they're the ones that tend to go along. So if you're in a, a gay relationship, a lesbian relationship, or if you're with, if you're the male and you have a female partner and she's highly reactive, they tend to go along.
That's true. I do see a lot of men, just as many women, who just are conflict avoidant, extremely conflict avoidant, and they very scared of high emotional exchange. So they just shut up, and they're resentful too. So it goes both ways in that.
Right. Okay, so let's go to the third myth we have, which is your love will save me.
Absolutely.
This love is gonna, you complete me. What was that movie with Tom Cruise? You complete me. Yeah, no.
Not only that,
but I think there's a whole sort of environmental pressure about this idea of being completed, the yin and the yang, my soulmate, my this, all of it goes into this myth for me, where it's kind of like, no, you need to be complete yourself.
Yes.
And then
what
would that be?
Really?
Really?
Right.
And what do I need another person for? If I have to do it for myself, that's what I hear. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. Well, and if you're not complete, I would say, if you're not comfortable in your own skin and you're not comfortable being alone, then you're going to meet somebody who's not going to be the best combination for you, right? Because you're not at your best self. You're not going to meet your best, partner. And the other person shouldn't complete you. They should add to you, right? Like, it's fun. Like, you can be totally happy being alone, and it's fun to be adding somebody to the mix, and then we can do other things. But I don't need this person in order to be happy. I don't need this person in order to function or to feel like I am a, fully worthy human being. And I know, like, I'm totally aging myself here, but years ago, it was a constant, when I was in my 20s, do you have a boyfriend? Do you have a man? Are you getting married? Do you have, like, every woman, every single girl who was, out of college, that was their aunts were asking, their grandparents, their mothers, like, and the non-spoken of that is, you're not good enough unless you have somebody.
Right.
And
something is wrong with you. It's even more that there is something wrong with you. And it's a belief that you actually feel inside as well, even if it's not said to you, because it's a cultural message, especially for women.
Totally.
Right? And not be in a long-term relationship.
Absolutely.
Something wrong with you.
I have a client, and she literally says it every time. So whenever she's dating somebody, and if they break up, she's like, I'm not lovable. What's wrong with me? I'm not lovable. Right. That's immediately where she goes.
Yeah, I have one of those too.
Right? What's wrong with me that I'm so unlovable? And women, knock it off. You are not unlovable. Maybe this guy's a bozo. Maybe this guy's the nicest guy in the world, but the worst guy for you. Maybe there's 1,000 things. And him or a woman, if you're in a gay relationship or whatever relationship you're in, the other person doesn't give you credence that all of a sudden you're lovable or not lovable. It has nothing to do with that. And if you make it about that, you're going to keep your desperation to prove that you're worthy is going to get you involved with really unhealthy people.
Well, you completely lose your power. Now suddenly you give them the power for you to be okay. And wow, then you're just going to shift in the winds, kind of thing with that. Yeah. But I also hear a lot this idea, we talked about that I need you. where people are kind of like, well, if I don't need them, what would I do with them? And I'm like, well, what if you would just enjoy them? What if-
Wow. Can honestly say I've never heard that question. That would have stopped me in my tracks. I would have been
I
like,
have heard
what?
it several times.
Wow.
I have to.
Yeah. If I don't need him, then why would I have him around?
That doesn't make me anything. When I hear that, I think, well, you're using him.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
using him. That's not love. Love
That's
isn't.
not love. Yeah.
Well, love
love
is not
what-
need.
Right.
Right.
But
love
I
is
love
not need.
what one of my friends said when she was talking. She got married several years ago. And she said, in my life, I was a wonderfully rich, tasteful cake. And it was fine. And then I met my partner. And now there's just really good icing on top.
Love that.
I thought that was so great. That's the difference
That's-
between needing
That's right.
Yes.
and
Yes.
enjoying,
Right. And wanting it. Like, it's okay to want somebody in your life. That's awesome. No problem. But you're not going to die or feel worthless if you don't have them.
Right. Mhm.
And that neediness, it seeps out of your pores. People feel it. The men feel it. Women feel it. Like, it's just,
It's very unattractive.
it's unattractive. It's very unattractive. It's you playing small. So if you have that desperate need, the last thing you want to do is be going out looking for a loving relationship. Don't do it. You got to get into therapy, and you have to find your inner worth and find that grounded, powerful strength where you're worthy. You walk in the world as though you're worthy, and you're owning it. And it does not matter whether 10, romantic partners come looking for you or none come looking for you. So you have to, if you have that neediness, read Pia Melody has a great book, Facing Love Addiction. Check out that book, Facing Love Addiction. Get into therapy, start doing some self-esteem work, because you need to up your game in terms of owning your worth and loving yourself, so that if you do want to be in a relationship with others, friendship or otherwise, or romantic, you're going to actually meet people who are, better able to add to your life.
I think in that needing also comes, how do they feel about me? How do they feel about me? How do they feel about me? And there's nothing about, but how do I feel about me when I'm with them? And how do I feel about you?
That's so funny. When I talk about dating, I talk about the difference between being the chooser or the choosee. The choosee is, oh my God, I hope they like me. Oh my God, I hope they're going to call me. I wonder what they thought about it. And the chooser is, let me think, how did it feel like in their company? Do I want to see them again? Do I think that this person would add to my life? It's an entirely different approach to dating. And sometimes the dating advice drives me crazy. Dress up super pretty and you say this and don't say that. It's like, no.
Oh my God. Are they still doing that? Is that still?
Oh yeah.
I thought that was done back when I was a teenager. I cannot believe that they still see that out there in the magazines.
It's still. And really what you want to do is, look, if you don't normally dress up a lot, don't go dressing up. I mean, certainly, like, if your jeans, like, wear nice jeans, feel dressed so that you feel good in your skin. That's what you want to do. And you show up and you respond and you ask in a way that is authentic to you. Because if you go in presenting somebody else, what if this relationship starts? Are you going to pretend this person for the next 20 years? Like, that's it.
Yeah, that's what I had this one woman, and she said, well, so maybe this guy would like me to be this. And I said, what? Is that you? Okay, well then after so many years, they're going to go, who the heck are you? Because you haven't been you know. And then you're going to say, you should love me unconditionally.
Right. And why are we fighting? We're not supposed to have conflict, right? So
that's it.
Right. So set it up from the beginning. And the best way to set it up from the beginning is you got to feel good about you, and stop like
Yes.
buying into these myths. These
Mhm.
myths are just unhealthy. They're going to take you down a bad road, you know?
I think there's also something, it's kind of in this, you will save me. It's like, if you would only fill in the blank, then I'd be okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, I gotta be okay and just determine what I'm gonna do in the face of whatever you're doing. But
Yeah.
you can't make me okay.
Yes. When you just said, if you would just ... you know, I would be okay. There's like, you have to be okay before they do or don't do whatever
me.
you know, whatever they're going to do. If you're not going to be okay with that, if you're not going to be okay because they're not reading your mind, or
Mhm.
they're not, you know, I have a lot of women who are like, you know, you don't put me as a priority. And that's an important thing for you to look at. You know, you don't put me as a priority is different. You know, sometimes they'll say, if you would just put me as a priority, we would be okay. And what I would, you know, it's kind of the difference between when is it, if you, because you don't put me as a priority, oh, maybe you're not treating me well.
Right.
Maybe you're not loving me like I deserve to be loved.
Mhm.
Maybe like I got to look at what am I accepting? There's like a way to turn that, instead of if you were just nicer to me, or if you wouldn't yell, or if you wouldn't ...
Mhm.
Women kind of spinning that around to,
Mhm.
what is it that I'm complaining about?
Mhm.
And what is it that I need to do about that?
Mhm.
The difference, yeah, that's anyway. So it's bringing me out two different things, because there's that piece versus,
Mhm.
you know, if you loved me, you would read my mind. That's an unhealthy piece. But if you would just ... sometimes that might be an inroad for women to look at.
Mhm.
I don't think I'm liking this. I don't think it feels good here,
Mhm.
you know?
I
Right.
think all of these things are possible paths to more self-awareness and self-knowledge.
Mhm.
Every time you come to a block,
Mhm.
um, you can learn about where you yourself are blocked.
Yeah.
It's not always the relationship. Sometimes it really is unfinished business that you have to attend to.
Mhm.
And we
Love
often
that.
project that onto our partners, and it
Mhm.
doesn't go anywhere because they can't solve those problems for us. Like they can't solve our self-esteem problems.
Mhm.
I love that. That's so true. Give more examples so they know, so they have a better feel of what you're talking about. What are some examples of them doing this? Like when it's about them versus the relationship, when their stuff.
Okay, so let's say an example would be, I don't feel really good about how I look, and the fact that you don't want to have sex with me as often as I would like makes me feel even worse about myself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Nice.
If you wanted me more, if I felt desired by you, if I felt your passion, I would feel so much better about myself.
Mhm.
So basically,
Versus what could, so the flip side of that is, honey, I would love it if you would give me a little more positives, a little more compliments once in a while, just so that I know we're doing, I don't know, so that I feel better. Not that I feel better,
no, not feel better about myself, but
about
it would,
us. Like, I feel
yes,
like
it would.
we're, you know, like to keep us a little bit closer.
Yeah, I do want to feel wanted by you. I do want to
Right. Right.
feel like you're attracted to me. But if I don't feel it, it's not necessarily because of you.
Yes.
I have to really look and see, like, how do I feel about myself? How do I feel about the way I
Right.
hold myself, I'm in my body, or judge myself, all of that.
Yeah, like you
I
can
think-
feel totally like, oh, I feel hot. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like totally hot, and my partner doesn't ever say that to me, but you can still feel in your skin pretty good and confident. But what you're looking from them is like to help with this relationship. I'm feeling a little distant and I don't know where you're standing.
Right. Like, why? Well, how come you never say anything to me about that?
Right.
What's going on? Because that does
Right.
bring up all kinds of questions, but it's about our relationship. It's not about my relationship to myself.
Love that.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And I think along with that, it's that kind of idea of if I'm feeling good about myself and I am asking for what I want, I would really appreciate it if you said more of
Yes.
these things. That then you have to take it when they give it. Because what I hear is that, well, then it doesn't count if I have to tell them that I
Oh
want.
God, if I hear that one more time, I'm going to leave.
Oh my gosh, all the
It's
time.
all the time. That's
All
gotta
the
be
time.
like
You're just
that.
saying that because I asked you to.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
that's the point.
if you ask your partner to do that and they did it, that is an act of love. They heard you, they care about, what it means to you, and they're going to do it.
I think there's all of those things
Yes.
about, which really I think goes back to what you were saying, Arlene, that I have to feel good about me. And if not, then this is how I foist it on the relationship.
Right. And it also goes back to what is love?
Yeah.
Love is giving and receiving and hearing. And when you love somebody and you're in love with them, you want them to be happy. You want to do whatever you can to help them, right? You also want to hold yourself in warm regard enough to take care of your needs, which means you have to say no. But really, there is this mutual thing between both of you where you both want the best for each other, and you're going to do whatever you can to help that person, thrive in whatever way they want to thrive. And it just feels good to come home to.
Yeah.
You want to be with them. You want to be around them. And if you're hitting tough times, then you care enough to try to fix that. Because you do love this person and you do want them in your life. Not that you don't need them. You're not desperate. It's not because, oh my God, I'm going to be worthless if I'm not with them. But yeah. So very interesting.
Yeah.
Love is not always hot sex. It's not always happy and no fighting. It's not, what are the other myths we said? There are
reading your mind.
It's not reading your mind. Yep. There are conflicts in it, healthy conflicts, respectfully done, and it is not
Skillfully done. Also skillfully. The skills are really important because a lot of us go into our romantic relationships not having a lot of those skills, and we have to learn them. Otherwise, we'll just repeat what we grew up with.
Absolutely.
And often that's not so great.
I think a big part of what we're talking about is how open are you? Is your heart open to the other person? Or are you just defending and that sort of thing? And part of that is probably about conflict in relationship and some of these myths we're talking about. And some of it is probably your own
stuff,
baloney,
And how open are they to you?
Exactly.
Right? To be back and forth. You're checking this out.
Right.
Check this out.
Now, if you're not open, you have to inquire as to why. Are you not open because of the way you feel you're being treated? Or are you not open because you have a lot of stuff that you haven't worked out? So you don't feel safe to be open.
Yeah.
Or some combination of both. I think those are all important things to note.
Right. Interesting. So, this is our first kind of little dipping our toes into love, because love is a huge topic, as everybody knows. And the 3 myths: love is not unconditional. For those of you who think it should be unconditional, that is crazy. Nobody's love is going to save you. You need to save yourself. And there should be healthy conflict in healthy relationships. No conflict is going to create unhealthy relationships. Conflict isn't the problem, it's how you go about it. So let's talk just for a moment. What would a grounded, powerful strength look like in loving relationships? You know, keeping in mind some of the things we talked about today. How can they start to step into their relationship with a grounded, powerful strength using some of the things we talked about today?
Well, I think one is examining how do they view these things, and some of that may be conscious and some of it may be unconscious, you know, that they didn't even know that you're really looking at it this way. So
Yeah.
Arlene's awareness.
Yes,
is the first
always,
step.
always a first step.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
And
I think, so what comes to my mind is being able to step into the relationship, knowing what it is that you want and need and feel, and communicating it in a respectful, direct way.
and being able to back that up if your communication doesn't get the results that you want.
Mhm.
You have to figure out how important is this and how far do you need to take it,
Mhm.
respectfully, relationally, with a grounded, powerful strength, and you got to be assessing that.
Mhm.
And I think Arlene's point earlier is an excellent point. You want to be looking at your relationships from what's my stuff and how's it impacting this relationship that I'm making up is their fault, right? Let me do a humble look. We are all imperfect. Mother Teresa was imperfect. There is no such thing as perfect humanity. So humbly look at your stuff and compassionately look at what's on the other side, what's going on with your partner that isn't leaving you feeling loved or wanted or in a healthy place. Not from a desperate place, but what's happening from that other person that doesn't feel good. Doesn't feel good to be on the other side of that. And what do you need to do about that?
And whatever is going on in the relationship, there's always room to use it to grow yourself and to grow the relationship.
Right.
So not looking at it, avoiding it, making excuses, rationalizing, that just
Mhm.
is a formula for problems down the road.
Right.
Mhm.
It just
And I think,
prolongs the bad.
What?
But it just prolongs what's
Yeah,
what's happening now.
yeah.
and I think, you know, and we've said it over and over, but the idea that regardless of what they're doing over there, your job is to stay respectful.
Right.
You can do any of these things. You can stand up for yourself. You can have an action if communication isn't working. You can do that all respectfully.
Right.
Mhm.
All right. So there you go. This is the Rising episode on what like kind of myths of love. So start paying attention to how these myths are playing out. Challenge for the week. Always, always, always start with awareness of you, awareness of the other person, and awareness of the relationship. Pay attention to these three myths in particular. Love should be unconditional. Your love will save me, and love means there's no conflict. And see how those three myths are playing out in your life now and have played out historically in your life. And start, choose one myth to do a little shift on, just a little bit of a shift on. For challenge for men, what's the challenge for men? Could be the same, but what do
I
you?
think it's the same. It's very, very similar.
Mhm.
I would say, because I've seen this so much in my practice, be aware of your tendency to avoid wanting to have conflict.
Right.
Your fear of your partner's emotional reactions and wanting to keep everything under your control and moving away from the relationship instead of dealing with whatever is up.
Love that.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's this idea, I don't want conflict or I don't want to hurt her.
Mhm.
And just because what you say is hard to hear doesn't mean it's hurtful.
Mhm.
And just because she's crying doesn't mean what you did or said was hurtful. You know, you check your side, don't be hurtful. And don't be hurtful doesn't mean that you don't say a hard truth. It means you say it with love.
Mhm.
And, you know, see what happens.
And
All
might I say, as you do that, no complaint without request.
Mhm. That's on you.
All right, everybody. Woohoo! Another one down.
Woohoo!
So, as you know, always, we would love to have feedback. If you like what you're hearing, pass it along to friends and families. If you have questions or feedback for us in any way, please put it in the Facebook link. We'd love to hear it. And we will talk to you in 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you if any questions come up for you after you've listened to where we went. You know, if you have anything that you think would add, expand on the subject, we'd love to hear that too.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And we will do our best to answer it. All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you again for joining us this week. And always remember, you have the power to change the world for women by changing how you walk in it. I challenge you to choose one way to stand in your grounded, powerful strength this week and be part of the ripple of change.